Life in Denmark, beautiful women, open marriages, and a $700 dream life. They say fairy tales don't exist anymore. But what if I told you there's a real place where you can live on just $700 a month and still enjoy one of the highest qualities of life in the world? A place where relationships are built on deep trust, where open marriages are accepted, and where some of the world's most confident and beautiful women don't chase flashy cars but meaningful conversations. This place isn't hidden, it's Denmark. And before you start imagining icy winters and boring routines, here's the twist. People here are happier, freer, and more emotionally secure than in most parts of the world. Sounds unbelievable. That's what I thought too. But stick around, because the truth about life in Denmark might just challenge everything you thought you knew about love, money, and happiness. Did you ever feel like the world is just too loud, too fast, and too hard to keep up with? You wake up, go to work, stress about bills, relationships feel complicated, and even when you try to slow down, everything around you still pushes you to do more, earn more, prove more. Now imagine this. There's a small country in Northern Europe where people live without that pressure. A place where you can survive, actually live well, on just $700 a month. Where relationships are built on trust and honesty, even if that means opening up your marriage. And where some of the most confident and beautiful people walk around without caring what brand your shoes are. That place is Denmark. And once you see how life works there, you might start to wonder why you ever accepted anything less. Let's start with what catches most people's attention first. Yes, the people. Danish people are often ranked among the most attractive in the world. But what makes them stand out isn't just their physical appearance. It's how they carry themselves. It's confidence without arrogance, independence without loneliness, beauty that comes from being relaxed, secure, and real. In Denmark, you don't impress people by showing off. In fact, bragging is considered embarrassing. People here value being grounded. They're not chasing likes or showing off lifestyles. That makes their beauty feel genuine, and their relationships stronger. Speaking of relationships, here's something that might surprise you. Open marriages are not considered weird here. They're not for everyone, of course, but they're not taboo either. People talk about their needs openly. If a couple decides they're happier with more flexibility, it's not seen as cheating. It's seen as honest. The main rule? Don't lie. Trust is the most important part of any relationship in Denmark. It sounds wild if you've grown up with strict rules about love and marriage, but in Denmark, there's a different approach. They believe love should be freeing, not controlling. Now, let's talk about money. This might be the part that really makes you sit up. Denmark is often seen as expensive, and sure, if you go to tourist spots and try to live like a billionaire, it will cost you. But locals, students, digital nomads, they're living comfortably for under $700 a month. Rent in shared apartments is often between $300 and $400. Groceries are affordable if you cook at home. Bikes are used more than cars, which saves tons on fuel and transport. You can rent a bike monthly for less than what some people spend on coffee. And speaking of coffee, it's good, it's everywhere, and it's part of a cozy lifestyle they call Hygge. Think of it like a warm hug for your day. And here's the part that blows people's minds. Healthcare is free. Education is free. Even higher education. You don't go into debt for needing a doctor or wanting to learn something new. It's all built into the system. That means you can focus on your life, your passions, your relationships, without drowning in bills or paperwork. It is one of the many reasons Denmark consistently ranks in the top 3 happiest countries in the world. Not just in Europe, in the world. That's not just some travel influencer making a claim. That's data from the World Happiness Report. Here comes another wild fact. More than half of Danish people are comfortable talking about non-traditional relationships, and around 15 to 20% have been in open or poly relationships. You're not judged for being different here, you're supported for being honest. It's one of the few places where you can say, "This is who I am," and people actually listen without trying to change you. Maybe this all sounds too good to be true. You might be wondering, what's the catch? And yes, we'll get to that later. There are some challenges, like cold winters and language barriers. But when you weigh those against the peace of mind, emotional freedom, and financial breathing room people gain by living here, many say it's not even close. You might be watching this from a crowded city, stuck in traffic, feeling tired of your job or unsure about your love life. Maybe you're just wondering if there's more to life than working all day and scrolling all night. If you've ever had that thought, if you've ever whispered to yourself, "There has to be a better way," then this video is for you. Because Denmark isn't just a country. It's a reset button. It's proof that life doesn't have to be so hard, that relationships don't have to be filled with lies or guilt, that happiness doesn't require a six-figure salary or a perfect Instagram feed. It just takes a different mindset and a place that supports it. So if you stay with me till the end of this video, I'll show you everything. The beauty, the culture, the rules that make this country so open, and the little details that change lives in big ways. Some of what you hear might shock you. Some of it might make you laugh. Some of it might make you think twice about how you've been living. But I promise you this, it will be real, and it might just be the most honest look at happiness you've seen in a long time. Where is Denmark, and why does it matter? Denmark is a small country in northern Europe, tucked between Germany and Sweden. It's part of a group of countries called Scandinavia, which also includes Norway, Sweden, and sometimes Finland. It's not a huge country by size or population. In fact, only about 6 million people live there. But despite being small, Denmark has created a way of life that has caught the world's attention. People often think of it as peaceful, safe, and very well organized. It's known for being one of the best places to live if you care about happiness, fairness, and balance. The capital city of Denmark is Copenhagen. It's a lively, colorful city filled with people biking to work, cozy cafes, and clean streets. It's the kind of place where you can walk around at midnight and still feel safe. The buildings are charming, and the canals running through the city give it a relaxed, almost magical feel. Even though it's the capital, it doesn't feel rushed or crowded. People are in no hurry. They value calmness. And this calm feeling isn't just in the city, it's in the entire country. From the quiet countryside to the small towns by the sea, Denmark moves at its own slow, thoughtful pace. The weather, though, can take some getting used to. Winters are long, cold, and dark. The sun disappears early in the day, and snow is common. Summers are short but beautiful. In the warmer months, people come out to parks, beaches, and festivals. They ride bikes, sit outside for meals, and enjoy the sunshine while it lasts. Even though the weather can be tough in winter, people have found ways to make it easier. That's where the idea of Hygge comes in, a Danish word that means comfort, coziness, and enjoying the small things, like lighting candles, drinking warm drinks, or spending time with close friends. It helps people stay happy even when it's cold and dark outside. One of the most unique things about Denmark is how it mixes structure with freedom. Rules are followed, things run on time, and systems are efficient. But at the same time, people are free in how they live. There's less judgment, less pressure to act or look a certain way, and more acceptance of different lifestyles. Whether you want to live alone, with friends, with a partner, or in a non-traditional family, there's space for all kinds of people. Danes are also known for their humor, which is usually very dry and sarcastic. They love poking fun at themselves. They don't take things too seriously, especially when it comes to status or money. In fact, showing off is frowned upon. It is better to be modest and quiet about your success than to talk about it all the time. This mindset is part of something they call the Jante law, which is a cultural belief that no one is better than anyone else. It sounds strange at first, but it creates a sense of equality that makes society feel more relaxed and respectful. Compared to fast-paced countries like the United States or even the UK, life in Denmark feels slower and more thoughtful. In many places, being constantly busy is seen as a good thing. People wear their stress like a badge of honor. But in Denmark, it's the opposite. Here, stress is not a badge of honor. It's a sign you're doing it wrong. People make time for themselves, for their families, and for rest. Overworking is not something to be proud of. In fact, if you're working late every day, your boss might think you're not managing your time well. That simple shift in thinking makes a huge difference in people's lives. The result of all this is a society that feels calm, safe, and kind. People trust each other. Crime rates are low. Children walk to school alone. Wallets left behind in public places are often returned with everything still inside. It's not a perfect place, but it's a place where most people feel like they belong. And when you walk around Denmark, you notice it. Not in big, flashy ways, but in small moments. A stranger offering help. A smile from someone on the street. A conversation that doesn't feel rushed. So why does Denmark matter? Because it proves something important. It shows that a good life doesn't have to be complicated, that happiness can come from balance, not hustle, and that maybe, just maybe, slowing down is the smartest thing we can do. The $700 dream life. How is it possible? When people hear about Denmark, they often assume it's an expensive place to live. And yes, if you stay in fancy hotels, eat at tourist restaurants, and shop without thinking, your money will disappear fast. But what most people don't know is that everyday life in Denmark can actually be simple and surprisingly affordable. In fact, many students, remote workers, and even families live comfortably on just $700 a month. That's not just possible, it's actually quite common when you live the way most Danes do. And the best part is, living cheap here doesn't feel cheap. It feels calm, safe, and dignified. Let's break it down, starting with one of the biggest costs anywhere in the world: rent. In Denmark, most people, especially young professionals and students, live in shared flats. That means you have your own private room, but you share the kitchen, living area, and bathroom with a few others. It's very normal and accepted. Shared apartments can cost around $300 to $400 per month depending on the city and the location. If you live outside of the city center or in a smaller town, it can be even cheaper. And the apartments are usually clean, warm, and well-maintained. Heating, electricity, and water are often included in the rent, or they only add a small extra cost. The homes may not be big or fancy, but they are functional, comfortable, and good enough for a peaceful life. Next, let's talk about food. Eating out at restaurants in Denmark can be pricey if you do it every day, but that's not how locals eat. Most people cook at home or eat at affordable places like food markets and university cafeterias. Groceries are reasonably priced if you buy fresh ingredients and cook for yourself. A lot of Danes eat simple, healthy meals, like open-faced sandwiches, fresh vegetables, eggs, rice, and pasta. There are also great street food spots where you can get a filling meal for around 6 to 10 $. Some food trucks and food halls offer tasty local dishes without the high prices. When you plan your meals and avoid tourist traps, your monthly food cost can easily stay under $150. That's enough for 3 meals a day, every day. And don't worry, coffee is a big part of Danish life, and even that can be enjoyed cheaply from cozy local cafes. Transport is another area where you can save a lot of money. Most people in Denmark don't drive cars, especially in cities, not because they can't afford one, but because they don't need one. Cities like Copenhagen are built for bikes. There are bike lanes everywhere, and it's actually the fastest way to get around. You can rent a bike for about $20 a month, or even get a used one for cheap. If you need to go farther, public transport is clean, reliable, and easy to use. A monthly pass for buses, trains, and the metro usually costs around $60. You won't need to spend on gas, parking, or car repairs, and you'll stay fit too, just from biking every day. That's how the average Danish person manages to stay healthy without a gym membership. Now, here is something that will make you think twice about your own country. S-System. Healthcare and education are fully covered in Denmark. You don't need to pay out of pocket to see a doctor. You won't get a surprise hospital bill in the mail. And if you want to study, even at a university level, it's free for Danish citizens and for many international students under agreements. Some students even get paid a monthly allowance to study full-time. That's right, Denmark will pay you to go to school. Imagine how that changes the stress levels in people's lives. No student loans. No avoiding the doctor. It means people focus on learning and staying healthy instead of worrying about money all the time. Let me tell you about a guy I met from Canada. His name is Alex, and he came to Denmark with just $1,500 in his account. He had no job lined up, no big plan, just a desire for a fresh start. Within the first few weeks, he found a shared apartment with 3 other students for about $350 a month. He picked up a used bike, got a public transport card, and learned to cook some basic Danish meals. Within 2 months, he had a part-time job at a small bakery. It paid enough to cover his rent, food, and even allowed him to save a little. 6 months later, he was speaking decent Danish, enrolled in a free university course, and dating someone he met through a local cycling group. He told me, "It's the first time in my life I feel like I'm not just trying to survive, I'm actually living." That story might sound rare, but it's not. There are thousands of people like Alex in Denmark. The reason all this works is because the entire system is built to support balance. People don't live to impress. They live to be comfortable, happy, and healthy. You don't see the pressure to constantly upgrade your phone or your lifestyle. There's no race to make it big or retire early because people already feel content. And when you live in a place where rent is fair, food is simple, transport is easy, and your health and education are secure, you stop stressing about how to survive and start thinking about how to enjoy your life. What's powerful about Denmark is not just the numbers. Yes, it's possible to live on $700 a month, but what makes that truly special is how it feels. You're not cutting corners or struggling to keep up. You're not living off instant noodles or sacrificing comfort. Everything you need is there, and you're treated with respect. Living cheap here doesn't feel cheap. It feels dignified. You still get quality. You still feel safe. And you still feel like you're part of a community that cares. For many people, that's life-changing. And the best part? It's not reserved for the rich or lucky. It's open to anyone who's ready to slow down, rethink what matters, and start fresh in a place where $700 can go a long, long way. Dating and beautiful women. What makes Danes different? Dating in Denmark is not what most people expect. If you're used to the idea that dating means showing off, spending lots of money, or trying to impress someone with gifts or fancy clothes, then you're in for a surprise. Danish dating culture is simple, honest, and very down-to-earth. Women here are confident, independent, and not easily impressed by material things. They don't care about how expensive your watch is or what car you drive. In fact, most of them don't even drive because they prefer bikes. What really matters to them is who you are as a person, how you think, and whether you're emotionally mature. You don't win love here with muscles. You win it by knowing yourself. So, what makes Danish women different? To start with, they grow up in a society that teaches equality from an early age. Girls and boys are taught to speak their minds, make their own decisions, and respect each other. By the time they're adults, women here are used to doing things on their own. They work, they study, they travel, and they make their own money. That means when they go on a date, they don't expect the man to pay or plan everything. In fact, it's very normal for both people to split the bill. Not because they're not romantic, but because they see the relationship as equal from day one. This can be confusing for people from other cultures. Imagine going on a date, and when the bill comes, the woman takes out her card and insists on paying her half. She might even get a little uncomfortable if you insist on paying for everything. This doesn't mean she's not interested. It just means she values fairness and doesn't want to feel like she owes you something. In Denmark, kindness doesn't have to come with a price tag. It's about respect, not power. Dating apps like Tinder and Bumble are popular in Denmark, but the way people use them is a bit different. Profiles are often short, witty, and very honest. You won't see a lot of heavily filtered photos or long lists of demands. Instead, you'll find things like loves rainy days, good coffee, and not texting back right away. Or looking for someone who doesn't talk during movies and knows how to load a dishwasher properly. The humor is dry and sometimes sarcastic, but that's part of the charm. People don't take themselves too seriously, and that makes dating feel more relaxed and natural. One thing you'll notice quickly is that Danish people are very direct. If they like you, they'll tell you. If they don't, they won't pretend. There's no playing games or trying to make someone jealous. This might feel harsh at first, but it's actually very refreshing. You always know where you stand. Danish women in particular are known for being straightforward. If they want to see you again, they'll say it. If they don't, they'll also say it. There's less confusion, fewer mixed signals, and way less drama. Honesty is a big part of dating here. People value real conversations over small talk. On a first date, it's not unusual to talk about serious topics like personal values, future plans, or even past relationships. This isn't considered too much or too soon. It's just a way to find out early on if you're really a good match. And while it might seem a bit heavy, it actually saves time and helps people avoid shallow connections. Danish people don't date just to pass time. They date to find someone they genuinely connect with. Physical appearance still matters, of course, but it's not everything. You'll see people in casual clothes, sometimes even in gym wear or messy buns, going on dates without trying to look perfect. The focus is on feeling comfortable and being real. If you're confident in who you are and don't try too hard to impress, that's more attractive than trying to look like a movie star. Another interesting thing is how gender roles are less strict here. Women are not afraid to make the first move. They might ask you out, message you first, or plan the date. There's no rule that says the man has to lead everything. It's all about being open and equal. This can be a little surprising for people who come from places where the man is expected to do all the chasing. In Denmark, both people take responsibility for the connection. Romance still exists, but it's quiet and thoughtful. It's not about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It's about small, meaningful actions. Cooking dinner together at home, biking to the beach, or simply talking for hours over coffee. Relationships grow slowly here, but they grow strong. People take their time to get to know each other before rushing into anything. And when they do commit, it's usually because they've built something solid. Of course, not everyone has the same experience. Dating is always personal. Some people might find it hard to adjust to the lack of traditional roles or the very direct style of communication. But once you understand how things work, it can be very freeing. There's less pressure to be someone you're not. You can just be yourself, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, that's okay too. No hard feelings. The beauty of Danish dating is that it feels honest and mature. It's not about playing games or proving your worth. It's about two people meeting as equals, respecting each other, and seeing if there's a real connection. And yes, the women here are beautiful. But it's their confidence, their strength, and their honesty that really stand out. That's what makes dating in Denmark not only different, but better in many ways. Open marriages. Normal or taboo. One of the things that really surprises people about life in Denmark is how relationships work. In many places around the world, marriage is seen as a promise to love only one person for the rest of your life. No questions asked. But in Denmark, some couples choose a different kind of honesty, one that allows freedom without lies. Open marriages are not the majority, but they are not seen as something shocking either. In fact, surveys suggest that around 15 to 20% of Danish couples are involved in open or polyamorous relationships, where both partners agree that it's okay to have romantic or physical connections with other people, as long as there is honesty and mutual respect. Now, this doesn't mean that all Danes are in open relationships. Many still choose traditional monogamy, and that's perfectly accepted too. The important thing is that people in Denmark talk about what kind of relationship they want, instead of just following one fixed model because society says so. There's room for different types of love stories, and no one is judged harshly for choosing something different. In fact, having open conversations about needs, boundaries, and trust is often seen as a sign of maturity, not something strange or dirty. The legal system in Denmark also supports different kinds of family structures. One interesting example is that Danish law allows for something called multiple guardianship. This means that a child can legally have more than two parents or caretakers. So, if someone is in a non-traditional relationship, maybe a couple with a third long-term partner, all of them can be recognized by the law when it comes to raising the child. That kind of legal flexibility is rare in most countries but is considered practical and fair in Denmark. It's not about being modern or cool. It's about making laws that match how people actually live their lives. So, why does this work in Denmark when it often fails in other places? The short answer is trust. Denmark is one of the most trusting societies in the world. People trust their government, their neighbors, and even strangers. Kids walk to school alone. Lost items are returned. And in relationships, this trust shows up as open and honest communication. Danes are raised to believe that being truthful is more important than being perfect. So, when two people agree to be in an open relationship, they usually mean it, and they talk about it regularly. It's not about cheating. It's about permission, transparency, and acceptance. In many cultures, cheating is the ultimate betrayal, and it's not because of the act itself. It's because of the lies, the secrets, and the broken promises. What Danish couples try to do is remove the lying part. If a need or desire exists, they talk about it openly. That way, no one has to hide anything, and both people can make clear agreements about what's okay and what's not. Some couples agree to date others. Some agree only to flirt or kiss. Some allow physical closeness but no emotional involvement. Every couple sets their own rules, and as long as both people agree and stick to them, it works. Of course, it doesn't always go smoothly. Just like with any relationship, there can be jealousy, miscommunication, or hurt feelings. But Danes are generally comfortable talking about those things. Therapy is common and not something to be ashamed of. Many couples who try open relationships in Denmark go to couples counseling, not because something is broken, but to make sure their relationship stays strong. It is seen as responsible and loving to make time to talk about emotions with a professional if needed. Let me share an example that shows just how different things can be. There's a man named Henrik in his early 40s who's been married for 10 years. He and his wife both work, raise their 2 kids, and share everything equally at home. About 3 years ago, they decided to open their marriage. Henrik now has a girlfriend he sees once a week. His wife, meanwhile, has a close connection with someone she met through work. They all know about each other. There's no drama. On special holidays, they still spend time as a family. Henrik told me, "We're not cheating. We're choosing to be honest about what we need, while still loving the family we built." Another story involves a woman named Sophia who has 2 partners. One lives with her, and one lives in another city. They all met through a book club and eventually had open discussions about relationships. She says her life is richer because of the emotional support she gets from both people. She admits it takes work, but she prefers open communication over silent suffering. "I'd rather have 2 people I trust than one person I have to lie to," she said. For many people, this way of thinking feels strange, even uncomfortable. But when you look closely, the real idea behind it is simple. Be honest, be kind, and don't make rules that you can't follow. Not everyone wants an open relationship, and that's okay. What matters is that people in Denmark are free to make the relationship rules that work best for them, without shame or fear. It's important to say that open relationships are not for everyone, and they're not the better way to live. They're just one option among many. What makes Denmark special is not that people are doing something wild, it's just that they are allowed to choose without being judged. That freedom alone is powerful. It gives people space to be real with each other, to try new things, and to learn what kind of love feels best for them. In the end, Danish relationships are not about having more partners or living some fantasy life. They're about being true to yourself and respecting others enough to be honest with them. It's not a game. It's a serious, thoughtful decision that people take with care. And in a world full of confusion, pressure, and fear around love, maybe that kind of openness is worth learning from. Lifestyle and work culture. One of the biggest differences people notice when they move to Denmark is how people work, and more importantly, how they don't overwork. In many countries, people are always busy, always rushing, and always trying to do more. But in Denmark, things are different. The typical work week here is around 33 hours. That's right, just 33 hours. Most people work from 8 or 9 in the morning until about 4 in the afternoon. Some even leave earlier. It's not that Danes are lazy. In fact, they're very productive. But they believe that life isn't just about work. You're not expected to stay late just to look good. If you finish your tasks, you're free to go, and nobody judges you for it. This focus on work-life balance is one of the reasons why Danes are among the happiest people in the world. In Denmark, your job is not your whole identity. It's just one part of your life. People value their free time. After work, they spend time with family, go for walks, enjoy hobbies, or simply relax. There's no pressure to answer emails after hours or be available all the time. In fact, if you send a work message late at night, many people will find it strange. They'll wonder why you're working when you should be resting. This mindset is not just a personal choice, it's part of the culture. Another great thing about working in Denmark is the amount of paid vacation. On average, workers get 5 to 6 weeks of paid holidays every year. And people actually take those days. It's not like in some countries where people feel guilty for taking time off. In Denmark, going on holiday is seen as normal and healthy. It's a chance to recharge, spend time with loved ones, and enjoy life outside the office. Parents also get generous leave when they have children. Both mothers and fathers can take months off to care for their newborns, and they're supported, not judged, for doing so. The structure at most workplaces in Denmark is also very relaxed. Offices often have flat hierarchies. That means you won't find strict levels of power where one person is always the boss and everyone else is afraid to speak. Even in big companies, people talk openly with their managers. You can share ideas, ask questions, and even disagree without fear. Everyone's opinion is heard, and everyone is treated with respect. In meetings, you might see a CEO and an intern sitting at the same table, speaking equally. Titles and job positions don't matter as much here. What matters is the work you do and the way you treat others. Because there's no obsession with status. People don't brag about their jobs or salaries. Success is not measured by how many hours you work or how high your title is. It's measured by how balanced your life is. You could be a teacher, a nurse, or a store clerk, and still be respected the same as a lawyer or business owner. That's because dignity is not tied to income in Denmark. People are proud of their work, no matter what they do, because all jobs are considered important. In this culture, there's a strong sense of trust between employers and employees. You're expected to do your work well, but you're also trusted to manage your time. Nobody watches over your shoulder every minute. If you need to leave early to pick up your child or go to a doctor's appointment, that's okay. There's no need to explain or apologize. People understand that life comes first. The result is a relaxed, healthy workplace where people feel valued, not just as workers, but as humans. Even the design of workspaces in Denmark shows this attitude. Offices often have lots of natural light, open spaces, and cozy areas for breaks. Coffee machines and shared lunch tables are common. Many companies offer flexible hours or allow employees to work from home. Some businesses even close early on Fridays, giving people a head start on the weekend. And no one is trying to one-up anyone else. You don't see people competing to be the busiest or showing off how stressed they are. In fact, in Denmark, being too busy is a sign that something is wrong. People might ask, "Are you okay?" instead of saying, "Wow, you're working so hard." Let's not forget about the support for learning and personal growth. Many workplaces offer training programs, workshops, or time to learn new skills. The idea is that you should grow not just as a worker, but as a person. Employers want you to be curious, relaxed, and confident. And if you ever feel stuck or unhappy in your job, there's help available. Career counseling, mental health support, and job change programs are part of the system. You're not expected to stay in a job forever just because you started there. You're free to explore new paths without judgment. This whole system makes people feel safe and respected. When you know you won't lose your job just for taking time off, or that your boss won't shame you for leaving at 4 p.m., you stop living in fear. That's why Danes are not only happy at home, but also at work. They're not perfect. There are still stressful days and tough projects. But overall, the pressure is less and the support is more. People smile more, breathe easier, and feel more in control of their time. There's a popular saying in Denmark that sums up this attitude perfectly. Work to live, don't live to work. It reminds people that their job is just one part of life, not the whole thing. And it explains why so many people who come to Denmark from high-pressure countries feel like they have found a breath of fresh air. It's not just about shorter work hours or more vacation. It's about being treated like a human being, not a machine. So if you're someone who's tired of checking your phone every 5 minutes, tired of feeling guilty for resting, and tired of working just to survive, Denmark shows you another way. A way where your worth isn't tied to your email replies. A way where you're allowed to have a life. And for many, that makes all the difference. Nightlife, community, and coziness. When people think of nightlife, they often imagine loud music, packed clubs, and wild parties that go on until the sun comes up. But in Denmark, nightlife looks and feels very different. It's not about going crazy or staying out just to be seen. It's about connecting with people, feeling relaxed, and enjoying the little things. In Denmark, nightlife is social, not wild. It's more about conversation, laughter, and shared moments than flashing lights and loud noise. And honestly, that's what makes it so special. Of course, you can still find bars and nightclubs in bigger cities like Copenhagen and Aarhus. There are dance floors, DJs, and people having fun. But even there, things are calmer than in many other countries. You won't see people pushing to the front of the line or shouting over each other at the bar. Instead, you'll find small groups sitting together, talking and laughing, maybe sipping beer or wine slowly. There's no rush, no pressure to look cool, and no need to show off. It feels more personal, more friendly, and more real. One thing that adds to this sense of belonging is how involved people are in different clubs and local groups. In Denmark, almost everyone is part of some kind of club or community. It could be a cycling club, a gardening group, a chess team, a music circle, or even a knitting club. It doesn't matter what your interest is, there's a place for it. And these clubs often meet during the evenings or weekends. They are not just hobbies, they're social anchors. People build real friendships through these groups, and they become a big part of their weekly routine. Even newcomers or foreigners can join. It is very normal for someone to move to a new town in Denmark and sign up for a cooking club or a local choir. That's how you make friends here. You don't have to be outgoing or loud. You just show up, participate, and talk naturally. Over time, it becomes a second family. And that's a big reason why people in Denmark don't feel lonely, even in the dark winter months. Now, let's talk about something deeply Danish, Hygge. This word doesn't have a perfect English translation, but the feeling it gives is clear. Hygge is about warmth, comfort, and closeness. It's the feeling of sitting under a blanket with a cup of tea while it rains outside. It's the joy of lighting candles on a winter evening and talking with close friends. It's the small things that make a moment feel special, without needing anything fancy. You'll hear Danes use this word all the time. That dinner was so hyggelig. Let's have a hyggelig night at home. It's not just a word, it's a lifestyle. I once heard a funny story from someone who moved to Denmark and was invited to a Hygge night. They thought it was going to be some kind of celebration, maybe with games or music. But when they arrived, they found 5 people sitting quietly, drinking tea, and talking about their day while surrounded by soft lamps and candles. That was it. And they loved it. It wasn't about doing something exciting. It was about feeling safe, calm, and connected. Danes take their coziness seriously. Even in public places like cafes and libraries, you'll find warm lighting, blankets on chairs, and quiet corners for reading or chatting. This comfort isn't just for the home, it's part of the culture. In the winter, when the days are short and the weather is cold, Hygge helps people stay happy. It's like giving your soul a break. And often, the best Hygge moments happen in the evening, after work, when people gather with friends or family. There are also some quirky traditions that add humor and charm to Danish social life. For example, when someone finishes their master's degree, their friends often tie them to a lamppost and cover them in cinnamon powder. If they're still unmarried at age 30, the powder becomes pepper. It's silly, harmless fun that brings people together and gives everyone a laugh. At first, these things might seem strange, but they're all about bonding. They create memories and stories that people talk about for years. Another funny tradition is singing old songs together at parties or dinners. It doesn't matter if you can't sing well. In fact, the worse you are, the more fun it is. People sing loudly, laugh a lot, and just enjoy being together. It's not about performance. It's about feeling part of something. This kind of nightlife isn't about noise or attention. It's about closeness. This isn't a party scene, it's a bonding scene. You might not come home with wild stories or blurry photos, but you'll come home feeling like you belong. That's what really matters. In a world where so many people feel isolated, Denmark shows how simple traditions, small groups, and cozy spaces can make a big difference. So when someone asks, "What's nightlife like in Denmark?" the best answer might be this: it's soft, it's funny, and it's full of heart. It's about candles instead of clubs, tea instead of tequila, and being seen for who you are, not who you're trying to be. And for many people, that's the kind of night they've been looking for all along. Mindset, happiness, and the Jante law. There's something very different about how people in Denmark think and live. It's not just about money or work or even relationships, it's about mindset. The way people here see life is calm, balanced, and deeply honest. And one of the biggest ideas that shapes this mindset is something called the Jante law. Don't worry, it's not an actual law written by the government. It's more like a shared belief, a social rule that most people understand and follow. The Jante law is basically the idea that no one is better than anyone else. It tells people not to act like they're more important, more successful, or more special than others. At first, this can sound a little negative. In many countries, people are taught to stand out, to compete, and to chase success. But in Denmark, it's the opposite. People are taught to be humble, to stay grounded, and to remember that everyone has value. You don't see people bragging about their job titles or talking loudly about how much they earn. In fact, showing off is seen as rude. What's funny is that being average is actually respected here. There's even a bit of humor in it. People joke about how normal they are, and they mean it in a good way. It's a way of saying, "I'm just like everyone else, and that's okay." Because of this, there's less pressure to always be better than others. People are not constantly comparing themselves. They focus more on enjoying what they have instead of chasing more. You won, so don't see as many people burning out from overwork or stressing over fancy clothes or big houses. Instead, you'll see people spending time with family, biking through parks, reading books, or simply sitting in quiet cafes. There's a deep satisfaction in the simple things, and that brings peace. This mindset doesn't mean people don't have goals or dreams. It just means they don't let those dreams control them. Another part of life in Denmark that adds to happiness is how open people are about mental health. Therapy is not something people hide. It is not shameful to say you're re-seeing a therapist or that you've struggled with stress, anxiety, or sadness. In fact, many people see therapy as a normal and healthy part of life. It's just like going to the doctor when you have a cold. You go to the therapist when your mind needs help. That attitude creates a safe space where people can talk about their feelings without fear of being judged. And because of that, people often get the help they need before small problems turn into big ones. This openness about emotions makes daily life more peaceful. Relationships are stronger. People are better at listening and understanding. You won't find a lot of drama or fake kindness. What you see is what you get. Danes are honest, not in a rude way, but in a clear and caring way. If something is bothering them, they'll say it. If they care about you, they'll show it, even if they don't use big words. That kind of honesty builds trust, and trust builds happiness. Another thing you all notice in Denmark is how little people care about fame or being the best. Success is seen differently here. You're successful if you're kind. You're successful if you take care of your family. You're successful if you sleep well, eat well, and treat people with respect. There's no race to be the richest or the most famous. Most people are happy being regular. And, funny enough, bragging about being average is cool here. It's a way to say, I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I'm enough as I am. This kind of thinking removes a lot of pressure. People don't feel the need to be perfect. They're allowed to make mistakes. They're allowed to be quiet. They're allowed to live slow. And that's where the real happiness comes from. Not from having more, but from being okay with enough. Life becomes less about competition and more about connection. Less about goals and more about moments. That's why, when you meet Danish people, you might feel something different. They're not trying to impress you. They're trying to enjoy you. They're present, calm, and real. And when you're around people like that, you start to relax too. You stop performing. You stop pretending. You just breathe. So, if you've ever felt tired of proving yourself, tired of pretending to be stronger or richer or happier than you really are, Denmark offers something new. A place where being normal is something to be proud of. A place where your feelings are welcome. And a place where happiness comes not from standing out, but from simply being yourself. What's the catch? By now, Denmark might sound like a dream country. A place where life is calm, work is fair, relationships are open and honest, and people are genuinely happy. But like every country, Denmark has its challenges too. It's not perfect, and it's important to talk about the things that might be hard, especially for someone thinking about moving there. Because even though it's a great place to live for many, it's not always easy for everyone. One of the first things people struggle with is the weather. Winters in Denmark are long, cold, and very dark. The sun sets early, sometimes as early as 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Days can feel short and gray, and this affects a lot of people's mood. Some experience seasonal depression, which means they feel more tired, sad, or low energy during the winter months. It's a real thing, and even locals are used to talking about it. People try to manage it with things like candles, cozy nights, warm drinks, and spending time with friends. That S, actually one of the reasons Hygge is so important in Danish life. It helps people stay happy during the cold and dark times. But still, the lack of sunlight is something you'll notice, especially if you come from a sunnier country. Another challenge is integration. If you're moving to Denmark from another country, it might take time to feel fully included. Danish people are friendly, but they can also be very private. They tend to keep close friendships that have lasted for years, and it can be hard to become part of those circles right away. Making new friends takes effort and patience. Language can also be a barrier. Even though many Danes speak excellent English, most social events, job interviews, and everyday conversations happen in Danish. That means if you really want to feel like part of the community, learning the language is important. And Danish is not the easiest language to learn. It has a unique sound and grammar that might feel confusing at first. Still, people who try usually get support from schools, free language programs, or community centers. Housing is another issue, especially in bigger cities like Copenhagen or Aarhus. There simply aren't enough affordable homes for everyone who wants to live there. Waiting lists for student housing can be long, and private rentals can get expensive. Many people live in shared flats, not by choice but because it's the only affordable option. If you're looking for a one-bedroom apartment in the city center, it can take a lot of time and luck to find one that fits your budget. Some students and new arrivals live in temporary housing or commute from far outside the city. So, finding a good place to live is possible, but it's not always quick or easy. Then there's the topic of taxes. Denmark has some of the highest taxes in the world. People pay a big part of their income to the government. For someone new to the system, that might feel unfair at first. But here's the thing. The high taxes come with a high return. The money goes back into society in a visible way. Healthcare is free, education is free, roads are clean. Public services work well, people feel safe. So even though you pay a lot in taxes, you also get a lot back. Most Danes are okay with it because they trust the system and see the results every day. So yes, Denmark is a great place to live, but it's not perfect. It has cold winters, a tough housing market, and some challenges for immigrants trying to settle in. But it also offers fairness, honesty, and support in ways many countries don't. The best way to understand it is this: perfect? No. But fair? Yes. And in a world where many people feel like life is unfair, that alone makes Denmark stand out. Could you live here? A self-test. Now that you've seen what life in Denmark is really like, you might be wondering, could I actually live there? It's a fair question. Denmark offers a lot of things many people want: safety, balance, honesty, and peace. But it also asks something from you in return. It's not for everyone. So let's do a little self-test. Not a serious quiz, just some playful questions to help you think. Can you live without being the best all the time? In Denmark, nobody is trying to outshine others. Being average is totally okay, even respected. If you're someone who needs constant praise or loves standing out in a crowd, you might find this culture a bit quiet. But if you've ever wished you could just be yourself without pressure, this might feel like home. Can you handle cold weather and long, dark winters? Denmark's winters can be tough, especially if you're used to sun and heat. The days get short, and the skies stay gray for weeks. But with candles, warm food, and friendly company, people get through it and even enjoy it in their own way. Can you be okay with simplicity over luxury? In Denmark, life is about comfort, not flash. People care more about how you treat others than what you wear or own. You won't see many people showing off expensive things. Instead, you'll find small joys, quiet walks, fresh bread, shared meals. You won't find luxury here. You'll find meaning. Can you respect privacy and personal space? Danish people are kind, but they don't open up right away. It takes time to build close friendships. If you're patient, the connections you make will be real and lasting. But if you expect fast friendships and big welcomes from everyone, you might feel lonely at first. Can you be open to new ways of thinking about relationships, work, and success? Denmark does things differently. Open relationships, shorter work weeks, equal parenting. It might all feel strange at first. But if you're curious, respectful, and open-minded, you might find something better than what you're used to. Let me share a real story. There was a couple from the UK, Mark and Layla. They were both in their early 30s, stressed with work and felt like life was passing them by. They moved to Denmark for 1 year, just to try something new. At first, it was hard. They didn't know the language and the weather made them miss home. But slowly, things changed. Mark found joy in cooking again. Layla joined a local art group. They both started biking everywhere. They made new friends, slowly but surely. 3 years later, they decided to stay for good. They said, "We stopped chasing everything, and somehow we ended up with more than we ever had." That's what Denmark can do. It can give you everything you think you want, but it might give you what you actually need. A slower life, a kinder culture, time to think, space to breathe. So, could you live here? Only you can answer that. But if your heart is tired of noise, if your mind needs calm, and if your soul is craving something real, then maybe, just maybe, Denmark is already calling you. So here we are. We've talked about the beauty of Denmark, not just the kind you can see, like clean streets, cozy homes, or attractive people, but the kind you can feel. The kind of beauty that comes from trust, balance, and calm. We've talked about freedom, too. Freedom to live without constant pressure. Freedom to be honest in your relationships. Freedom to not always be climbing, pushing, or proving something. And yes, we've talked about affordability. How you can live well on $700 a month, how healthcare and education are free, and how a simple life here doesn't feel cheap. It feels fair. But here's the thing. Denmark is more than a place. It's a way of thinking. It's not just a new country to live in. It's a mental shift. It's about changing the way we measure happiness. Instead of counting how many hours we work, we can count how many meals we enjoy slowly. Instead of asking how big our house is, we can ask how safe and calm it feels. Instead of chasing more, we can learn to appreciate enough. Denmark shows us that life doesn't have to be complicated to be good. That we don't have to live with anxiety just because everyone else does. That relationships don't have to fit into one narrow box. That success isn't about looking better or owning more. It's about living well, feeling okay inside, and treating others with respect. These ideas may sound simple, but they're powerful. And they're possible. This doesn't mean Denmark is perfect. It has cold winters, a tricky housing system, and it takes effort to adjust to the culture. But the reason it works for so many people is because the foundation is solid. People are trusted. The system gives back. You're not left to figure everything out alone. Even if things are hard, you feel supported. So here's a small invitation. Pause. Think. What part of your life needs a little more Denmark in it? Is it your relationship? Maybe you're tired of hiding how you feel or pretending to be okay. Denmark teaches you that honesty is stronger than silence. Is it your work? Maybe you're working non-stop but still feeling stuck. Denmark shows that it's okay to leave the office at 4 p.m. and still be a good worker. Is it your stress? That constant pressure in your chest? That feeling that you're behind, even when you're trying your best? Denmark says it's okay to slow down. In fact, slowing down might be the smartest thing you do. You don't have to move across the world to feel this shift. You can start small. You can be more honest in your conversations. You can take breaks without guilt. You can stop comparing yourself to people who are just as lost as you are. You can light a candle, sit with someone you love, and enjoy the quiet. That's what Hygge is all about. That's what a Danish mindset is about. It is not about moving to a new place. It is about creating a better space inside your own life. So here's your moment. Think for a second. Really think. What would your life look like if it had just a little more balance, more kindness, more freedom? Now, take that thought and share it. Drop it in the comments. Write one line about what part of your life needs a little more Denmark in it. Your answer might not only help you, it might help someone else too. Someone who reads your words and feels seen. Someone who realizes they're not the only one looking for peace in a noisy world. No need to like or subscribe. Just reflect. That's the only call to action here. Because maybe real change doesn't start with a plane ticket. Maybe it starts with a quiet moment, a thoughtful comment, or a single decision to live a little differently from today forward.